Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for attending the second webinar in Engage's Association Best Practice Series. Today's subject is Millennial Engagement Strategies for Associations. My name is Jason Stone, and I am VP of Sales and Marketing with Engage, and I have the honor of being your host for today's webinar. Through the webinar series, we will host leading experts who will discuss and share insights on a variety of topics related to successful association administration and growth. Now, before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to go over just a few housekeeping items. To maintain a quiet environment, all attendees are in listen-only mode. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the event. If you have any questions, please use the question function on the GoToWebinar utility box on your screen to ask them. And there will be a recording of today's presentation that will be sent to all attendees. At the end of the webinar, please take a minute to take our 5-question survey. Your feedback will help us improve the quality of future events, and from the entries, we will draw a lucky winner for a $25 Amazon gift card. One of those questions asks for ideas for future topics, so we would greatly appreciate your thoughts to help us grow and guide the series. Today's webinar will introduce us to the enigmatic generation known as the Millennials. Our guest speaker will share with us who they are, what they're about, what they want, and perhaps most importantly, what we can do to market to them and attract them to our associations. Later, I'm going to show you how to use Google Analytics to monitor how millennials are interacting with your current website content. Our speaker today is Gail Straus. We've invited Gail to be our guest, and she develops audience strategies for associations just like yours. Gail has served as the Director of Research for Manani Continuum Marketing. She was Senior Vice President at the Chicago-based nonprofit marketing firm Lipman Hearn, and is the former Dean of Enrollment Management and Director of Market at National Louis University. Her expertise covers independent market research and strategies, and she specializes in helping nonprofit organizations reach their audience, attraction, and retention goals. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience with us today, Gail. The podium is yours.
Thank you, Jason. Thinking about all of you out there, I imagine some of you are millennials and are listening to, what kind of wisdom I might have to depart. Yeah, Jason, I'm not moving. There we go. A bit of a frame of reference check. I am not a millennial. I am a parent of a millennial who, like many millennials, denies all of the characteristics we give them, thinks that, of course, she's unique, and how millennial is that? Of course, I'm a baby boomer, as are many parents of millennials, and so we've kind of reared them, raised them, and now have to pay for all of our parenting. Who are millennials? Well, an attribution that has been given to folks who are now getting into their 20s up to age 35, 36. They are in our market. They are running our organizations. They are making decisions about many things, who their suppliers are going to be, what they're going to do, and how they're going to spend the money of their employers. Many of them are, of course, self-employed. We're the next generation. It's already been dubbed the Generation Z, or the Homeland Generation. We know just a couple of things about them in terms of things we care about at this point. We know that they were youngsters, 5, 6 years old, when 9/11 happened. We know that they have been most affected in a number of ways by the 2008 recession. We know that they never knew a time when technology was not at their fingertips. So watch for those Generation Zs. They're in college now, and they're coming to an association of business near you. What do we know about millennials? We know that they are ambitious, impatient, self-confident, and demanding. We know that also they are the first generation that is likely not to be better off than their parents were. And they know it, so they can be extremely competitive. They are also, in our worst characterizations of them, are very entitled, self-indulgent, and skeptical. They're skeptical about a lot of things, including things that I know that I, as a boomer, would have taken for granted, among other things, that they don't necessarily see their elders as people that they need to look up to, respect, do as they're told, because our experience is not relevant necessarily to them. Painting a kind of dark picture here, but they're really great, and they have their realities. One of their realities, among their realities, is that they are entering the workforce with real debt from education. They're postponing, as a result, family and mortgages. They're often time-starved, and we all talk about being time-starved, but they really are time-starved. There's so much going on in their life, and that ambition, that impatience, the technology really plays a role in how they face the world. I mean, they've always been, and this is really significant, they've always been the hero of their lives. This is the stereotypic group that got participation awards. We always found something to say you're the best at. And so while they've been competitive, they've also had this bright light shone on them for all of their achievements. In terms of their work world, we know that employer reimbursements in support are not as generous or not as present as they were maybe for us, or even for that generation between the boomers and the millennials of that Y group. And social media, such an important factor in how we communicate with them and how we engage them, is, again, a part of their life which gives them instant access and an instant megaphone. They're not necessarily looking for us for our associations for community, because they are part of many communities. What do they expect? As a result of who they are, they expect a lot of things, but they expect authentic experiences, both of those words being important. They expect it to be real. They see through things that are kind of manufactured, and they want to experience things. We talk in many contexts about, we can't stand up in front of them and pontificate. We can't deliver programming. We have to engage them in programming. They also expect a real work-life balance. There's been a lot of talk about work-life balance forever, but it's not lip service for them. They, both the males and the females, the fathers and the mothers, when there are children, co-parent. There is a real expectation of work-life balance within their world. That's going to have an impact. We'll talk about that in a little bit about in their association lives. And they have a high degree of fairness. They really expect that the world is going to be fair, and yet their skepticism tells them they know it's not. And those are going to be issues to them, because they know what can happen. One of the things that you get contradictory information on out there is their interest in engaging, their interest in networking, their interest in being part of a larger community. And so, yes, while there are reports that this group of your members is interested in engaging, we know they want to do it on their terms. And what are their terms? And boy, that's a good question. Their terms are going to vary depending on the profession, depending really on the individual and where they are in their work world. Most importantly, what they're looking for, I'll say this a number of times moving forward, is value. Where's the relevance? What's it going to do for me? How is it going to advance my career? So associations, again, make it about what's the number one thing they want. Surveys tell us opportunities to advance their careers. And remember, they're impatient about what that means. The stereotypic millennials is, okay, I've done this job for a year. I can do my boss's job. Where's that promotion? So the tenure, and we went from, certainly the greatest generation expected real loyalty to their employer. In the boomers, 10 years was, an employer was a good time, maybe even a short period to move. Millennials, if they put in 2 or 3 years and aren't getting the advancement and the promotion that they want, they're out of there and they're moving on. So how can our associations be a kind of constant in their lives and help them make those moves, but also be realistic about what those moves are going to happen? And I'm going to, again, one of the themes here is going to be technology, no surprise, and recognizing that their experience with technology is ubiquitous. They know what technology can do, and they expect it's going to do that. So that's going to affect their customer service, their engagement, their requests for things to be personalized and customized. They know that it is possible for you to know them and to know their wants, needs, and desires. If you ask them what they're interested in, they expect that you're going to deliver on that. Well, you know this about me, therefore, and whether that's how they want to be communicated with, what programming is of interest to them, where you hold a meeting, kind of think up and down the line. They know that you can address them by name, you can reference something that you've asked them about themselves, and that you're going to act on that. And just as we know that there are mixed signals out there about the desire for engagement, we also know that there's mixed signals about loyalty and affiliation. In the brand world, we can read things that will tell us that brand matters and things that also tell us that brand doesn't matter. Are they brand loyal? And in that conversation, I'm going to include the idea of, are they loyal to you as an association? Are they loyal to an employer? Do they have loyalty generally? So yes, I believe that they are very brand loyal, but they can turn easily. So if you don't deliver, again, on that customer service, on those expectations, social media enable them to tell you about it so they can be big advocates. And we see that in tools like review tools, TripAdvisor, Yelp. We see that in how they blog or tweet or comment about anything in their lives, positively and negatively. So they can be your biggest advocates if you serve them well, respect who they are, but they can also be your biggest detractors. And so we want to curry that favor. We want to get that loyalty, but we risk being detractors. They do want to belong. They do want to connect and engage. But again, that value has got to be there. Talked about that work-life balance and the whole nature of volunteerism that is often so important to us in the association world. They do and will volunteer. However, they are more likely to volunteer for something or in a context that is outside their work context or their professional context. It's a difference. Jason mentioned that I've done a lot of work in the higher ed sector over my career. And so I think about the difference between an extracurricular activity and a co-curricular activity. So the co-curricular activity is something that might enhance the curriculum, just as volunteering in the context of their professional association might enhance their career. And the extracurricular is more avocational, is something different. And they're going to really gravitate more to that extracurricular, that, you know, get my head out of work, let me do something. Remember, they were raised doing community service. Requirements in high school and middle school even, and certainly in college for community service, have always been part of their lives. And so they're going to volunteer, but not necessarily in their professional world. I've mentioned this before. I again devote a slide to it. It's all about value. Are you bringing them value? What is value in this context? Well, you got to ask them. It's what they see of value. Remember, another theme we need to keep in mind is it's all about them. We are not them, although I'll come back to that in a moment. But we can't assume they want what we want. They can't assume that the better interests that we have are the interests that they have. And again, something that we'll talk about and I'll leave you with is the expression of benefits of membership in terms of things that immediate, personal, and tangible. Immediate, personal, and tangible. You're going to hear that again. Digression for a moment, because here's the thing. There's nothing that millennials want that the rest of us don't want. Or in other words, we want what millennials want. We want to be respected as individuals. We want the organizations and the brands that we interact with to know us and personalize and customize, to respond to us in a timely and fair manner. All of those things that have come to characterize millennials, we all want. The difference is they demand it, they expect it. We kind of say, oh, gee, that would be really nice. You know, as a boomer, we've come not to expect those things. They aren't part of our DNA, if you will, but they are for the millennial. And some of that is the technology is part of in how technology and what technology enables has been part of our lives. But it's also that hero. It's that just who they are, however it's come. So it's interesting when you see survey research that compares individuals, association members, or others by generation, and while you expect there to be great differences in what's important, what they want, you find that there really aren't great differences because we all want the same things. The difference between want, the difference between what's important, and the generations is expectations. So, some strategies for associations. Some thoughts here about what you can do to retain and recruit this cohort of professionals, these younger members now in your associations, and this rising group. They're going to be a big force. For what it's worth, the Zs are going to be even bigger. They're expected to be more Zs coming up than there are either boomers or millennials. First and foremost, costs. Costs are a big barrier to entry, and unless there's a very clear value, again to use that word, value to belonging to your association, to whatever you want them to belong to what you want them to attend, then that ROI, that return on investment, isn't there. So how do you bring them in? How do you give them a taste of what the value of the association is? Well, discounts, scholarships, financial aid, certainly subscription or payment plans that allow them to manage costs and appreciate the value of what the association has to offer. Segmentation. We've been generalizing a lot about millennials as we do in this business, but they're not a monolithic block. So where are those differences? It's going to vary a lot from association to association, from profession to associate, from profession to profession. And some of that some of that we need to learn. Are there differences based on geography? Are there differences based on educational background? If you have a multidisciplinary association, what are those differences between those and the differences? And the differences may be psychographic rather than demographic. So they may be about levels of ambition. They may be about where they are on that work-life balance, all kinds of different ways of looking at them. But you need to know what they are, and you need to develop those personas that allow you to describe them, know how to communicate with them, know how to create benefits and services for membership that will engage them. How do we get them involved earlier? Again, that notion of tasting, sampling, experiencing for themselves what the value could be. So associate memberships, certainly things like junior boards or advisory groups dedicated to, hey, we know leadership is not of the millennial generation. So we want to bring people in, and we want to kind of get those training opportunities and those engagement opportunities. And maybe it's not a major commitment. Maybe it's just a one-time advisory group, a committee. The important thing, to go back to that notion of volunteering, is that they're more likely to respond based on a direct ask. Email blasts, still the most efficient, certainly, cost-effective communication that you can use, but it's very impersonal. And yes, we can segment it. Yes, we can change copy based on what we know about people. Yes, we can put in a Dear Gail, call them by name kind of thing. But we're still blasting. We're still generalizing in a big way. So these heroes, once again, ask directly, hey, you would be really great for this committee. Hey, I've seen what you can do, or your employer recommended you to me. You'd be really great to do this activity, to help us out on this. So direct ask, really important. Experiences, again, talked about that, but they want and expect experiences. We see that very much in the travel industry. I don't know if any of you represent the travel industry, but we see that it's not sufficient to go in a town and even on a business trip, right? To stay in the local hotel, go to your banquet. They want to experience the environment around them, the community around them. The popularity of Airbnb has really been built on that. If you see their advertising, you see that too. Kind of live in my community, don't just visit it. So our events have to be as experiential as possible. Some of that happens by telling stories. Put them in the place of that example, that case study, that story, and always demonstrate ROI. Here's what the value of membership would be to you. Here's what the value of membership is to you in a retention context. Certainly we want to get them involved as early as possible and as often as possible. We want the association to be part of their lives even before they can consider membership. So certainly you're all doing something with those in training or school or preparation, whatever the context is, for what your profession represents. Those early careerists, maybe they're not eligible for membership yet, but get them involved and be a voice for the profession early. So, you know, as relevant to you, how can the association be the ones who are sponsoring the materials that get those middle schoolers introduced to what you do? And again, think about how that's relevant given what your association actually does. And certainly professors and other influencers are very important to you, and I'm sure you all know that. Communication. So we're going to talk about things to do. Communication is all of what it comes down to. A manageable social media strategy. Don't try to be all things to all people. Look at the relevant social media, what are your members using, what are your prospective members using, and what is the appropriate content for that. So you're not going to, the same content doesn't go on LinkedIn, it goes on Facebook. Snapchat, the rising star in the social media channels. A lot of YouTube, mostly people want video, they want to see. But you know, we can throw these out forever and there will be new ones every time we turn around. That doesn't mean you have to use them all, but you do need to have a social media strategy and a content strategy that goes along with it. And it has to be written down, and it has to be followed, and it has to be monitored. Said earlier, email continues to be the best channel to communicate, but use it judiciously and use it well. And manage your expectations around that. As communicators, we always talked about, you know, the letter, right? In the day, the letter was the easiest thing to do. We did a mass mailing, we did direct mail. Direct mail's coming back, by the way. If you haven't experienced that yet, because it's almost unique now to get something of value in the mail. But that's all still one-way communication. What are the opportunities to really engage, to have dialogue, to have conversation? Telephone is still a really good way to do it. More and more text, and people are giving you permission to text them and continue to have conversation with them that way. Certainly, word of mouth always going to be your most valuable, and don't forget mobile. So of everything here, what's the most important piece of communication you have? It's your website. How are you using your website to continue to bring members back, to give them reasons to continue to come back to the website and be engaged with you there? Or is it current? Is it relevant? Is it usable? And is it mobile? So let's wrap it up and see what questions are out there. Millennials are continued, this is relevant. Millennials continue to rise in leadership positions across professions and industries. You know that, you wouldn't be on this webinar. And associations can best serve them by using appropriate technology, social media, mobile, video, customized communication, speak personally to people. Provide, there's that line again, immediate, personal, and tangible value, authentic experiences, know who they are and what they want, and meet those expectations. Once you ask, you have to respond, you have to answer. So thank you, and turn it back to Jason.
Gail, thank you so much. We really appreciate you sharing your expertise with us today. Very quickly, before I open the floor to the questions that have come in this series we do our best to connect the dots from what our expert shares to what we do at Engage. For those of you less familiar with Engage, a very quick overview. We have our own group of millennials on staff, none of whom were harmed in the making of today's webinar. They're all fine. Our services are targeted to Microsoft-centric clients and include CMS, AMS, and CRM integration. Plus, we offer custom software development as well as design and analytics. And in that regard, I'm going to share with you that Google tip in just a moment. We have a strong record for creating successful association websites. In the past 3 years, we've launched more than 20 new association sites, one of which took home this year's coveted ASAE Gold Circle Award. Congratulations again to the ACR, the American College of Rheumatology. And so now, on your screen, you should see a snapshot of our process at Engage when it comes to website development. And this is an overview of how we tackle a typical website. First, you're going to have a discovery period where we learn more about our clients and their goals and how we plan on tackling them. And then next, the actual design and development efforts of building a site. And then delivery. And those same 3 circles are highlighted and have those little reload icons next to them to show that it's a repeated or an iterative process. We repeat those 3 until we hit the next circle, which is delighted client. And then after we've had some time for the site to be used, we review the analytics, and that's the data circle. And we do that to see how the audience has been interacting with the new site and whether that's meeting the association's goals. And that, the analytics piece, is what connects the dots. So now I'd like to show you how you can use your Google Analytics account to see how millennials interact with your own site's content. Keep in mind, if this is unfamiliar territory, we're recording this. You should be able to view it over and over again, or if you need to, you can pass it along to the person in your organization responsible for analytics. Okay. So what you're seeing here is Google Analytics homepage. It's the audience overview view. And the little red arrow is indicating what we're about to change, which is a segment filter. So I want you to click that. And that's going to open this second window to allow you to create a segment. And you're going to click the red button, as shown by the arrow. And it's going to spin up this view. And this demographics tag is going to allow you, and it's our good fortune that currently millennials are 18 to 34, so we can take advantage of these age groupings. The 18 to 24 and the 25 to 34, you want to select those. And then if you'll notice at the bottom, some of the associations we work with have location-centric audiences. So maybe you're US-based or maybe you're even regional. You can use this as well, if you're not global, to narrow down your audience view of millennials so that it's the specific location you're interested in. And that can be the United States, a state, a city. That's up to you. From there, that's going to give you this filter. So now the data you're going to see is actually filtered down to the millennials, the 18 to 34s, and if you've selected the location-based, that as well. In this example case, that's 26% of the audience on the website. And on the left-hand side of your screen in the navigation, now I want you to select behavior. And you'll find under behavior 2 subcategories. Those are going to allow you to have 2 different groupings of content. The first grouping is all pages, and what that's going to produce is a list of every URL that they've hit. Or if you want a more generalized overview or an aggregate view of the buckets in your information architecture, and to define this, if you have a global navigation or your top navigation, that's those areas, assuming your URL structure is designed correctly, that's going to give you this high-level view. And in this case, what I'm suggesting you do is you export these into Excel. And so first, before you do that, if you scroll to the bottom of the page, there's going to be a little drop-down that allows you to show more rows. By default, Google is going to show you 10 rows. I want you to go as far out as it'll go, which is 5,000, and then download that using the export button, which of course is all the way back up at the top of the page, to export to, and I would suggest you use Excel XLSX as the export. And what that's going to do is that's going to generate an Excel file of the data that this filter produces. And what I would suggest you do is you do one run of this in Excel with the filter on and one run of the filter on all users, so that you can then compare those two documents to see, well, how does a millennial use our website differently than our general audience? And that can give you those insights in comparing those documents. And that's our tip. So from there, I want to take it to a question and answers. Give me one moment. We'll pull up the questions. The question from Rose is, demonstrate ROI. Is this about money, dollars? For example, what the membership costs without the discounts we give to this group of people? Because isn't that what we're looking to see if my money was well spent? Is that clear, Gail? You want to field that one?
No, if only it were that easy. You know, certainly, you know, that in a business context, if you will, that's, you know, yes. Did I get enough value from what I bought that justifies the cost? We're not offering that kind of commodity. We can't say that if I pay $400 a year, whatever it is for my membership, that I'm going to be $500 richer or whatever as a result. So we need to do more to define value in terms of what is of value to our members and potential members. So is it an easy way to earn continuing education credits or develop a skill that maybe you don't get actual credit for, but it helps advance your career? Do I have access to a job board or mentorship or, you know, other things that I value? So often when we're doing research with members, we ask not only what is important to them, but what is the value of that. Your publications have value. If you publish the professional journal newsletter, what's the value of keeping people up to date and smart within their own context? So yeah, because of the kinds of things we're doing, it's not quite as quantifiable as we like, but it directly relates to what do your members and potential members find of value.
Okay, thank you. Another question. We've seen attendance at our annual meetings decline in recent years. How do we get millennials to attend events?
Wow. Yeah, I've certainly seen that with associations that I've worked with, and everybody's scratching their heads. It may be, you know, boy, annual conferences in particular, big, important event in the life of an association, often a big money maker, revenue stream for you. They may have outlived their real usefulness for you, and that's really something that you have to look at. Who's going, who's not going, who's been in the past and is not coming anymore. It's quite a commitment of time and money for people to come to your congress, your conference. And so you might look at, are there other ways to deliver the same value? Is there opportunity for regional conferences that instead of one big national or even international conference, do you do smaller regional conferences? Again, look at what, go back to the ROI question. Let's look at what people value from the association and how can we best serve that up to them, and is it worth not only the cost of attendance, what you're charging them in a registration fee, but in their travel, in their days away from work, home, family, to come to your annual meeting.
Okay, so I think this will be our last question unless anyone else has another they want to. Feel free to weigh in more, but this is regarding student memberships. We offer student memberships and get good engagement from millennials while they're students. How do we retain them?
Yeah, I've seen that too in a number of my clients. You wonder, student memberships sometimes are paid by the institution that they're with, or they are so low that they can't, they have to join, they come to your annual meeting as students because, hey, we're going together, we're doing it, and maybe the institution is also paying for it. I guess I'll go back to what I said earlier about maybe there's a transition membership fee. If you're offering something of value, they'll stay with you. So let's not assume they're going to simply because they did as students. Let's make sure you're selling in while they're with you as students those benefits that they're having experiences they can't imagine doing without to advance their careers.
Okay. All right, it looks like no new questions, so that's it. Just to wrap up, please remember that we have the survey after you log off, and you do have a chance to win the $25 Amazon gift card. That will be drawn today, and we'll let you know today. Thank you so much. Please make note of the next webinar, which will be on October 20th, same time. And it will be on improving the online member experience and will be presented by our friends at ProTech Associates. So make a note of that. And thank you again for attending. Gail and I both would love to be of further value. If you have any additional questions, please find our contact information on the screen. We both like to make ourselves available to you. You are welcome to reach out to us, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon. We appreciate you participating in this webinar.